If you're looking for a true 50-50 tire for your really big adventure bike, you've come to the right place. A few months ago I did a review on the Heidenau K60 Scout tires, saying that those were probably some of the best all-around tires for the big adventure bikes. In the comments section, a lot of you guys mentioned the Mitas E-07 tires, and I actually mentioned in the video that I wanted to check them out. And I had not really seen them before. To start this review, let me set some expectations for all tires. There's no one tire that's going to be really good at everything. Every tire has certain compromises, including longevity, dirt traction, road traction, wet traction, highway stability, cost, and noise. Since it's basically the main competitor to this tire and I have a lot of experience with it, we'll compare mainly to the Heidenau K60 Scout. I believe the K60 Scout to be a 60-40 tire. That's 60% road, 40% off-road. This tire falls more to 50-50. The great thing about the Heidenau K60s is they're hard rubber, which gives you a lot of longevity. However, the compromise there is traction. In my experience, traction in wet weather was severely lacking with the K60s. These tires tend to be a little bit better in the rain, but not by much. On dry pavement, I was able to scrape my foot pegs on my old 1150 with the K60 Scouts. The same thing could be said with the Mitas E-07s. Even though the knobs tend to seem closer on the Mitas E-07s, it does feel like it steps out a little more in a good lean. And I won't lie to you guys, I've low-sided in both the K60 and the Mitas E-07 tires on the same bike. On the K60s, it was on wet pavement, whereas on the E-07s, it was on really fine gravel that was kind of hidden on top of the pavement. And my best guess is that any tire probably would have done the same thing. But you're not really looking at this tire to do some intense road riding. You want to do some off-road. In all off-road scenarios, the Mitas E-07 felt way better than the Heidenau K60. You'll have no problem sailing around on the hard-packed dirt with these tires. I didn't have any problem in the rocks either, including baby head-sized rocks. Keep in mind too that my comparisons are on the same bike. That's my old R1150 GS. I like these tires enough to put them on my new bike. Initially, the Mitas E-07s are actually not bad in the mud. You tend to lose this within about the first 1,000 miles of riding these tires though. The reason they work well initially is if you look at the tread, that center bar is actually recessed until you burn down to it. And the reason for that center bar is longevity. The reality for most people on these big adventure bikes is that they have to ride really far before they start hitting the dirt. Personally, I have to ride about 2.5 hours out of the city before I can start touching dirt. That's not even including riding back home. That brings us to highway stability. The K60s felt just a little better on highway. I will say that both the Mitas and the Heidenau felt better on the 1150 when it came to highway riding. And while not totally relevant, the reason for that is the rake angle on the R1150 GS. These tires on my current bike, a 2010 R1200 GSA, feel just a little bit squirrely on the highway when you start getting to really high speeds. Again, that's a compromise coming from basically a street tire and going to a semi-knobby tire. So why get something like this tire versus a TKC 80? There's no doubt that the TKC 80 is far better in the dirt than this tire, but I can almost guarantee you that you'll get double the mileage on these tires than you will on TKC 80s. I prefer to have the longevity for cost and time alone. I don't have the time or money to keep changing out tires every time I do a trip. I was able to get 10,000 miles on a Heidenau K60 rear. With the Mitas E-07 on the same bike, I got 8,000. This is the game of compromises, and you have to figure out exactly what kind of riding you think you're going to do and how often you're going to do it. I will say that on my current bike, these tires seem to be burning a little bit faster. There are a number of factors that could play into that. One is that I've been riding in really intense heat, seriously up to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. And the other is that this new bike has a lot more horsepower than my old one did. And I tend to try to use all those ponies. A factor that some people consider is noise levels. These are going to be a noisy tire. Any type of knobby or semi-knobby tire will give you that noise. Initially, these tires kind of sounded like a Stuka dive bombing an Allied tank. They tend to quiet down after about the first 1,000 miles. But to me, I don't really consider this factor. I tend to wear earplugs beyond my commute. And if you're not wearing earplugs on rides maybe beyond 20 minutes, you're doing hearing damage. Last but not least, an important factor considering these tires is cost. Tire prices fluctuate all the time, but I'll give you a snapshot in time with this review. Right now, a front and rear tire for my bike would cost $269 total. A Heidenau K60 front and rear in the same sizes would cost $339 from the same website. So a $70 difference for maybe 2,000 miles longevity difference, but way better performance everywhere else. My best guess as to why there's such a difference in cost between the two tires is the labor rates. The Mitas E-07s are made in the Czech Republic. The Heidenau K60s are made in Germany. That, coupled with the possibility of differences in importation taxes, makes for a cheaper tire. For me, the Mitas E-07 is my go-to tire now. I'll still attempt to try other tires that are probably more dirt-oriented, but for now, these are a known factor, and I know they're going to do well. One thing I really want to mention is that I would stay away from the Dakar version of these tires. I bought the Dakar versions for my current bike, and they were borderline impossible to get on my wheels. The sidewalls are much thicker on the Dakar version, so you don't puncture the sides if you're going an intense off-road. The problem with that is the stiff sidewalls make it stupid hard to put these tires on. Not that it really matters on a GS, but I totally scratched up my anodized wheel all the way around. I couldn't get it on with a tire machine, and I resorted to having 3 other people help me out with spoons. So if you care about your mechanic and you want to save a few extra bucks, just get the regular version. Another thing to note, and it might just be a totally one-off thing, is that my front tire on my last set of these were slowly losing about a pound of air a day. I never experienced this on my old bike, so it could just be something with my new bike, or even particularly my front wheel. The new front tire I have on there isn't losing any pressure from what I can tell, so it's probably a moot point. I appreciate all of you taking the time to watch this and actually taking me seriously. This entire YouTube channel has been completely self-funded. I try to keep it that way to keep any biases out of the reviews. If you want to see more videos like this, please press that like button. It lets me know what kind of content I should focus my efforts on. And of course, if you want to see more of my channel, consider subscribing if you aren't already. If you've had similar experiences with these tires, let me know in the comments. Especially let me know what kind of mileage you got out of your tires so that I can kind of get a better perspective of averages. Thanks again for joining me on another video review. Take care and ride safe.
Uh-oh. Small log to do. What? It's not bad. It's like worse. It's like less worse than a curb.